Welcome to the October 27th, 2022 regular meeting of the Human Service Advisory Board. I am calling the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Thank you all for attending. And I will now call roll for the record of board members in attendance. Allison Duplichin,
Yes, here.
Mary Earls,
Here.
Ruben Garza, Monica Gonzalez, present. Rachel Montgomery,
Present.
Joanne Parsons,
Present.
Gloria Quinn, and Mariana Zamora.
Present.
With 4 out of 7 voting members in attendance, we have a quorum. Right, at 4.
We actually have 5, but we've
Oh,
got a
sorry.
quorum.
Sorry. So with 5 out of 7 voting members in attendance, we have quorum. Each speaker, sorry. We are going now to the 30-minute citizen comment period. Staff, is anyone present in person, online, or by phone to speak during the citizen comment?
No.
Okay. We will now consider approval by motion of the minutes from the October 6th and October 13th, 2022 meetings. Do I hear a motion?
I motion to approve.
Okay. The motion was made by, I think, Joanne Parsons. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. The second, Mary Earls seconded the motion. Does the board have any discussion or corrections regarding the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against?
Aye.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's okay. All against, please say nay. So 2 ayes and 0 nays.
And if it's okay, we'll just assume that everyone was an aye. And so
Okay.
by concurrence, we'll have approved the minutes.
So by concurrence, we have approved the minutes. Okay. Let's see. We will now receive a brief presentation from the staff on the preliminary average scores by the board of the applications for the Human Services Grant funding. Carol, the floor is yours.
Okay, and I'm gonna share my screen. And we're getting some feedback, so I'm gonna go ahead and mute people. I think, yeah. So let's see, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Okay, can everyone see the Excel spreadsheet that has
Yeah.
the scores? Okay, so this first spreadsheet shows the risk scoring. I just wanted to go over it very quickly. Everything in green was scored low as an average score of risk, and I just averaged everyone's scores for this. We do have several agencies and programs that received a medium risk score. And so we can take that into consideration as you discuss the programs if you wish. Medium is not alarming. No one received a high risk score. The highest risk was considered to be rough draft, which is a new program for the board to be considering. So that's not unusual. And so is this, that you can see is the newer programs that we're looking at that have received the higher risk scores. Okay, as far as scoring for the evaluation criteria, when we discuss when I sort of lead the discussion to decide which agencies will be funded, and then separately by how much, we do need to take into consideration the scores. It doesn't have to lock you into anything, but we were asked by the city manager's office to make this sort of a more objective process. And so that's what we've attempted to do with the scoring. And so it can at least be perhaps a basis for getting started, or maybe it's something that you want to consider in detail. This year, the scores were, the higher score ranges especially were somewhat similar. So I went ahead and averaged all the scores, although I'll also show you the table that kind of shows everyone's scores, but I thought I'd start here. If we average all the scores and then rank by the average, here's the list that we have. And so you can see it as we go down. And I'm just sort of trying to orient you to all these spreadsheets for the moment, and then we'll figure out, you know, how you want to go about discussing and making decisions. So our highest score was the San Marcos Housing Authority with a score of 95. And then it goes down from there. You can see that there are a few ties, like, for example, CASA and School Fuel tied for 13th and 14th place, basically. And it keeps on going down to where you reach the scores that were lower. And so you have some of the newer agencies scored lowest, and then also some that we've seen before. So it really is a mixed bag. It's 38 organizations. I think, you know, it's going to be kind of interesting how we figure out how to discuss the scoring. And after I go over these spreadsheets, then on the next item, the discussion item, I'm going to recommend that we take about 15 minutes to sort of talk through how the decision is going to be made. So you can kind of see, here's the sort of moderate scores and the ranks. And we can come back to this in detail later. I also created possible categories. If we want to use them, they're there. It might help you compare among 38 organizations instead of having to take them line by line or something. We could sort by category and then compare within the category, if that will help. Now let me show you, let's see. Oh, on this spreadsheet, I also have how much they were funded last year versus requesting this year, just for reference. So we can have that piece of information. I would note that, for example, if you simply took the top 14, which is down to here, all of these right here, oh dear, I didn't mean to do that. Hang on one second. I'm trying to keep this where you can see everything. Okay, if you took the top 14 down to here, that totals to $474,000. And so you can make a very quick and easy decision. We're going to take the top 15. The last one gets funded a little bit less, and we're done with the deciding. I don't know that anybody's heart is there because there are so many good programs. I think we may want to discuss it instead, but I just thought I'd sort of give you that image of that's how much the funding covers. So it's going to be interesting. Okay, now let's look at the colorful spreadsheet that has everyone's scores on it. Let's see, I'm going to hide that. Okay. Okay. You can see that there, to me, there seems like quite a bit of consistency, like in the higher ranges. So it's still sorted by average score. But what I did was take a range for each board member. So for example, I looked at your scores and I tried to divide by 12 because I thought we had 36 at the time. So basically by 12, and then see like, what's your top 12 scores? So I created ranges. Let me just show you, make this. Okay. I created ranges. So for example, Allison's scoring, her low scores were from 50 to 65, medium from 70 to 80, and high from 85 to 95. But people have different scoring methods or whatever. So you can see that maybe the greatest difference was Mariana. She went ahead and scored. She doesn't get to vote, but she went ahead and scored. So we do have her scores in there. So low for her was 28. So she used sort of the whole range. So 28 to 80 were the 12 lowest for her. Medium was 85 to 93 and high was 95 to 100. Now, if you had more than 12 that were in a group, like if it ended up that you scored, I don't know of an example, but let's say Mary scored 15 people at 100. I don't think she really did that, but if she did, I included all of them in the high score. So I tried to just be consistent for each board member. What are your ranges of low, medium, and high? So let's go back and look how it came out. So here are the highest average scores, and then you can see it gets mixed when you get to the middle. There's some people who scored it low, for example, and some people scored high and some people scored medium, all for the same program. So that's something to consider. And then as you go down the list, the lower scores are showing up here, where a lot of people scored them low in their own range. Is this making sense to everybody? Do y'all have any questions about how I did the ranges? I don't think I've explained it well.
I don't have any questions. I think you've done great. Thank you, Carol.
Yeah, I think this is great. This is great to be able to evaluate kind of where we're at, and also helps us to decide kind of maybe which ones we want to focus and talk on, where we've got maybe everyone's low and one high. Maybe we can hear from that person to find out, maybe why it was high and see if that changes at all for them.
Yeah. We can definitely do some of that. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to point out about these spreadsheets before we move on. Hang on 1 second. Okay, I'm not going to be able to see if your hands are raised. So if you need to talk, just go ahead. So that's what I have done with these spreadsheets. Why don't I turn the floor back over to the chair, and so we can go to the next item, and that's actually an action item for discussion. So I'll hand it back over to Monica.
Thank you, Carol. We will now hold a staff facilitated discussion among board members on the fiscal year 2022-2023 Human Services grant applications for the purpose of comparison, evaluation, and selection, to create a recommendation to City Council on which applicant agencies should receive funding and how much funding should be granted to each selected agency. This is an action item, so the board can make decisions this evening. Carol, you may open the discussion and decision-making process.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Before we get started, I think I'll bring back up I'll stop sharing my screen so we can see each other. Hang on 1 second. Sorry, oh, here it is. Okay. Okay, now we can at least see each other. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. What I thought we could do is start out by talking through how to make this decision. So for example, I have some ideas on what we could do. We could narrow the list, we can look at categories, blah, blah, blah. But I think y'all really may each have your own ideas on how to do this. And so I thought we could at least start there. And I've asked Brandon to time us for 15 minutes so that we can have that time period and we'll know about where we are on time. Just another quick note, we have this meeting and then next week's meeting. And after that, the decisions need to be made in these 2 meetings. So if we come to decisions tonight, great. If not, we have another meeting. But after that, we really need to have decisions made because we have to notify all of the agencies and give them a chance to appeal before it goes to council. So that's a new process. Okay, so I'll just open the floor to ideas. Is it clear what I'm asking? Like, do y'all want, what kind of scheme do you want to use to discuss these agencies?
Yeah, I was actually curious what the other board members' thinking is around, do we want to sort of center ourselves in funding the most programs? And so there may be a strategy for funding a lot of the low dollar value requests? Or do we want to put more stock in funding the full requested amount, given that many of those organizations have pocketed that money for a certain activity? So I'm just kind of curious where people are leaning, or if we feel like it's a mixed bag of each organization we might have a different answer for, because I think that might help us with the strategy of going in and sort of reducing the list potentially.
So I'm really glad you brought that up because I'm leaning towards the strategy to where we try to fund as many people, but we need to be fair. And as Carol said, bring in these scores into consideration to justify our reasons to the city. So a strategy that I would like to see that I don't know if other board members would be up to is we can look at the risk level and say, okay, if you're in a medium risk level, your cap would be maybe 50% or 25% of what you're requesting. And if you're in a low risk level, then you can have a cap of 75% of your funded. And that way we have a little bit of leeway of maybe of an extra 25%, then we can maybe go back and divide that evenly among the remaining that didn't get the full amount that they wanted.
I like that, Monica. That's kind of how we did it last year
Mhm.
because we had so much money, $1 million. And so we gave out as much as we could. And then we went back and gave out the rest. And that's why some of the organizations got like 110,000 or 75,000 or whatever, a lot more than what they did the previous year because we had so much money. But I like that because I think it gives all the organizations an opportunity to have at least some money to work with, because these are all good organizations. And even though we may have scored them low, I still think that they have some impact, even if it's a small impact in the community. So I like that. I think it's fair. I think the city council would really appreciate seeing more money spread out across the board instead of giving big lump sums to certain organizations. So I agree with that, Monica, if everybody else does.
Yeah, I really like that thinking. And along those lines, I know we're not ready to discuss particular organizations, but we do have two that are 200,000 or greater, which would be a huge chunk of the funding, obviously. And so if we apply that methodology, there may be some outliers that we want to discuss independently, because even with that same methodology, it may take so much of the pot that we might want to just double check that that is, you know, those outliers make sense.
I agree, Allison. A lot of the ones that are asking for that much, we know we can't give them that anyway. So we can probably go back to the previous year or the previous year and see how much they were funded at that time, excuse me. And then we could maybe give them a percentage of that. Because a lot of the organizations, you know, when you write grants, you're going to always ask for more anyway. And so you have to keep that in mind. So maybe we, if not, you know, because last year was a special year, we had $1 million. I think if we go back to the previous year and see how much they asked for, if these aren't new, then we could give them a percentage of that. And I think that they'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I like that.
So would you say like 50% of what they asked for last year, and then that would be their cap?
Yeah, or either go back to the previous year, Monica, since last year was a special year and we had more money. I think that might not be as fair But if you go back to the previous year to see how much they were accustomed to asking for when we had the regular $470,000, then I think that that would be more of a fair assessment than last year.
Okay, so the year prior to last year,
Yes,
2021. No,
yes.
sorry.
No, 2020, yeah, because I think that would be fair. We had a $470,000.
Mhm.
And yeah, but last year, I think we should just really exclude last year altogether because we had so much money that we even had money after we gave out, we had to go back, give out some more.
Right, I recall that. It was a
Yeah.
very special year.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Monica, but instead of using last year, I think we should go back to the previous year.
Okay, so am I hearing like maybe, because there was only like really the two risk levels, a medium and low. So we can say the low risk level would be 25% cap. And the medium risk would, no, wait, sorry. Medium risk is the 25% cap and the low risk is a 50% cap. And then that makes the 75%. And then the remaining 25% would be the extra play money that
Exactly.
we would distribute. So
I
we're
think that's what,
having
yeah.
3 years.
I think that's what we were trying to do last year too. And I think we pretty much did it like that. We just had so much money to play with.
Yes,
And
I
this
know. We had a lot of play
year-
money.
Yeah. Yeah, but I like that. And I think that's fair across the board. And I think the city council would appreciate that as well. If they see more of the organizations funded than just like the first 15 or whatever.
Okay.
In addition to that, I'm curious if anyone, again, I know we're still talking strategy, but just sort of thinking through if there's any organization that anyone has passion around being excluded for some reason, right? The risk score was really high. We felt like the financials weren't there. We felt like the story of how they would use the fund wasn't there. Like, I'm not sure the answer to that for obviously all of us, but is there maybe, you know, a few organizations that we feel like maybe we should discuss just removing from the list altogether too?
So I think we should wait and go into that level of detail next after this discussion.
Okay, perfect.
So Carol and Monica, did you want to have a vote on that to see if everybody was in agreement on the way we're going to score?
Well, I hadn't thought of having a vote. We certainly could. I was just thinking that we would kind of hear it around the table. Rachel and Mary, did y'all want to say anything? What are your thoughts?
I've actually been doing some math. I love the idea of trying to fund everyone, but we only have $500,000, correct?
Right.
Yeah, so just some math I was doing while you guys were talking, you could fund everyone if you gave them all 30% of what they asked for. Every single one could have some money. But then, you know, it doesn't take into account the rankings and what everybody thought about the particular organizations. But then, so you could look at it that way. It's fair. Everybody gets the same amount. Some other math I was playing with was, you know, the top 15, you could fund those at 50% and the rest at 20, and everybody would get some money. And we're still, I mean, I love the thought process. I'm just worried we don't have enough money to really play with, you know, 75 for the top ones and then, you know, a little bit less for the rest. The thought process works. I'm just not sure that the math works with the amount of money we have. That's my only concern.
And I think what was currently proposed was different than what was initially proposed. So current proposal is 50% cap for the low risk people, 25% cap for the medium risk people, and then have 25% and then see where we are, I guess, basically on the funding.
Yeah,
Have some left over
I'd love to
move
see how
around.
that math shakes out. If we can do it that way, great. I agree.
And Rachel, I'm not sure if you're able to quickly do it, but if we took out the two that are, because there's two that are over, there's one that's like 200,000 and one that's 250. they're probably skewing even your percentages. I'm just
Sure.
curious, to put those out, would it be like everyone gets 45%, which actually feels a lot better than 30, right? Or something like that. maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I could, so you're talking what, anything that was over 100,000?
Yeah, so I
Like-
think it was the
Because there are only a few. There's
development was 250, and then
there's a
the
250, a 150, and a 200. I think that
Yeah.
you're right. They're probably skewing the numbers.
And if we take Joanne's consideration and looking at what they were previously funded the year before last year, was that at the 200,000 or was that a lower number?
It
was
looks
a
like
lower
they didn't have
number.
anything last year.
yeah, one of them had 0 last year, and one of them had 60,000.
Yeah, the one that had 60,000, I think she's asking for the two. I think if we X out the two that she's asking for and look at the 60, then that would be a higher percentage to give everyone as well.
I want to
Yeah,
make sure we have everybody's opinion too, before we get too far down the road. And Mary, I'm just asking, would you like to say anything? And then I'll go on to Ruben and Gloria.
Well, I've been thinking about it, and I like what everyone is saying, but I think realistically, I think we need to look at, I still just think about the year that all these organizations have had to work through, and the fact that they still came forward, they still submitted their application. I know we had the criteria, but I'm looking at more that we make every effort to give everyone something. Now, I don't think those percentages are gonna work out. I was like Allison, I was trying to do the figures. I was thinking more that we just try to split the 500,000 between all of the organizations. I mean, I think it's a good faith effort. And I think the city council would support it. Given, because we've watched the organization, some of them have struggled, others haven't, others have more resources than some of the newer ones. I mean, you can look at the scores, those folks that are solid have come to us year after year. Those are the ones that I see that we've all scored so high because we know them, and watched them, but all of the organizations hold work and they are valuable to our community. So I was thinking more that we try to take the little money we have, because it is very little, and try to split it between everyone who applied each year for funding.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ruben, you were up next. Ruben, I think your internet's not working.
I'm very opinionated. There are some groups I don't believe in their mission. Can you hear me?
We
Can you hear
caught, yeah, now we can. We caught a couple of sentences.
Carol, like I said, I'm very opinionated. There's some programs I just don't believe in. The home program is one of them. I don't believe in providing a hotel room for a homeless individual as any solution. I tried to raise money for them during, when I'm working, and people turned me down because they just didn't see it as a viable option. There are groups that are providing utility assistance, 4 or 5 of them. We ought to pare it down, to 1. I just think we need to make the hard choices, and otherwise, I'll straighten them out and move on.
Okay, I think we were able to hear most of what you said. I sure hope so. Pare down for utility assistance. Okay. And then Gloria, what we're doing, and I think you've caught most of it, is we're taking about 15 minutes to talk through how to go about making the decision.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Because I'm in a hotel room in Boston and I'm having a hard time trying to
I think
get
you're
out.
in. Yeah, it's working.
Well, I'm in, but I can't monitor my video or my volume. So no, I'm hearing what you're saying. You know, there was one agency, I'm looking through the paperwork, they're brand new to us as far as asking for money, and it was one of the MHMR things, and they wanted 250K, you know, which is, I think, extreme. So y'all were talking about high dollar agencies that really hasn't had much of a history with us. So that's an example of that. If I could find the particular paperwork with it.
Okay.
So
What do
we're at 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that'll just keep us sort of on track. Mariana, we haven't heard from you either. I want to give everybody a chance to kind of chime in at the track that we're considering taking.
I appreciated the question that Allison asked at the very beginning. For me, it's definitely sort of like a mixed bag approach. I don't know that I would lump any together and just kind of fund or based on ranking and even the risk. I think that's like an interesting concept, like the capping, like maybe that could help us in some ways. But I know for me, like, as I went through the process of kind of scoring everybody, like I was a little, I think, disappointed in like some of the applications, in the sense that like I can see the need and I could think of like all the reasons we would need that service. But either didn't see like all of the letters of rec that we were asking for, or didn't see the justification where with reliable sources. And I understand each organization has like different capacities, and maybe not a grant writer on staff or someone maybe with that background who could have done those things. But I just felt like those were missed opportunities to really speak to why we need this. And there were a few who didn't speak specifically to the San Marcos community. So I was a little surprised by that, because we're not the expert knowledge, like the expert in each of these categories. And so where I would have wanted to learn more about criminal justice, housing issues, things like that, I don't know what the prevalency was for our community, because I didn't see it backed up with research. So I don't know, y'all are making the big calls. I'm just here to kind of give my opinion, but.
Thank you. So to try to sum up, it sounds like we have broad support for trying the capping idea. And we also need to really look specifically at the ones that requested a high amount, and consider, like, look at them first and consider whether or not we're going to fund them, and then how much, and then we'll know how much funding we have left to work with. Do y'all want to, and then also there's, within that discussion, I think there's opportunity to bring up things like, you know, once we're talking about specific organizations, then we can talk about the risk factors, or the fact that several of them cover utilities and that kind of thing, and we can work through those issues as we go. Does that sound like a good way to go? And do y'all want to vote on that, or is everybody content with what I've just outlined?
I like what Rachel and Monica and Allison and Mary came up with as far as looking at how to fund more of the organizations. I know Mariana was talking about people, turning in specific papers in the application and everything, but I think looking at their services and what they provide, it's more important to me. I would really like to take a vote to see, or at least we can have a verbal to see how many would like to fund as many as we can. Or like Mary was saying, just split it or take a percentage like Rachel. I liked her idea where she was, 50% of the 15 and then 20%. I like that. So I don't know. I would rather fund as many as I can than to go back and look at each one individually like we've always done. That really doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the strategies that we've used before. And I think it will exclude some members as organizations as well.
So then Joanne, just bear with me. Are you, let's see, proposing to go with the caps that Monica suggested or something different?
Could
The
Rachel,
caps,
I like that Monica suggests, but I like the caps more like of what Rachel was suggesting. I think it gives them a little bit more and we could fund a little bit more. I know Mary was saying, let's just take the whole thing and just split it. There's no problem with that either, because they're all having to use some of the money. It's not funding 100% of their project, and they all.
oh, Joanne, you must have muted yourself, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying that I like Rachel's approach, and I like the idea that Monica brought the idea up that we could fund more. And I see that Mary was on board too. She was just wanting to take the whole 500,000 and split it with everyone. I know that the organizations didn't come in thinking that we were going to fund them 100%. So if we give them something, I don't think that they're going to go back to the city and fight it versus we don't give them anything.
Okay, so Rachel, will you talk a little bit more about what you're thinking as far as
Sure.
percentages?
Yeah, I was just tweaking the math a little bit. So if we fund everyone and we say we want to split the 500,000 among all the groups, they end up getting about 30.25% of what they asked for, gets us to 499,000. If we, want to tweak that a little bit, you could do the top 15 at 55% of their ask and everyone else at 20, and that gets us to 496,000. So, I mean, there's all kinds of different ways you could do it. This is just what I've been playing with as we're talking.
I like that. I think the ones that were asking for, I'm sorry, Allison. I think the ones that were asking for like the 250 or the 150, I think if we go back 2 years to what they originally asked for and give them a percentage of that, I think that that would be more fair than taking what they're asking for or what they received last year.
Yeah, so just for an example, I think it was Hill Country Mental Health asked for the 250,000. If you put them in the 20% range, so one of the lower ranked programs, they get $50,000 of that at 20%.
Then if you go back 2 years of what they asked for.
They didn't have anything last year. So I guess I'm new to this. So I guess maybe they didn't do one last year, but I don't see anything that they weren't funded last year.
Let me look just to make sure. I can go back to the funding history real quick,
Yeah.
but I think
Okay.
that that's correct, that they've not been funded before ever with this group. And then the other one that's 200,000 is Melge, and they got 60,000 last year. And then we could look at Home Center if you want to. They're asking for 150,000. And they're the other sort of outlier.
Yeah.
Over
so
100,000.
Home Center at 20% would get $30,000. And then for the other one that was at 200 and they got 60 last year at 20%, they'd get 40,000.
And I was just going to comment that I do like this methodology. I'm in agreement. Let's figure out how we fund as many as possible. And I like utilizing the scoring. I totally get where Mary's coming from with the like, let's just split it. But I also like utilizing the scoring that we did to say like, who do we feel like on a range we feel like deserves a little bit more, right? Or deserves to be maybe funded a little bit more. I will say as a caveat, I do think there are potentially a few that we should talk about as outliers, either from the funding that they've requested and or to maybe answer some of Ruben's questions that maybe some of us have, where there's like one or two where we're like, well, you know, maybe that's something that's funded heavily by corporations and other things. Maybe they've got a $20 million budget. So giving them 50,000 is a drop in their budget, where funding 10,000 for an organization will support an entire sort of like arm of their nonprofit, right? Like, so I feel like there is a little bit of that kind of massaging that I think we can do without having to go through every single one, just those one or two handful that
I
we might-
agree.
Yeah.
Okay, Joanne has proposed having a vote. So I will turn it back over to the chair and then, or I can do a roll call actually. Why don't I just do that? Sorry. Okay. So the proposal is that we would, and let me know if this is not right. Proposal is that we would look at the top 15 and give them 55%, give all the others 20% as a starting place. And then look especially at the ones over 100,000 and make sure we've reduced their funding to something more proportional or just eliminated them or whatever. And then also talk about some specifics. So after we see where we are with that, then the group talks about various ones that they want to bring up. So that's the proposal. Allison?
I agree.
Mary?
I agree.
Ruben?
I agree.
Monica?
I agree.
Rachel?
I agree.
Joanne?
I agree.
And Gloria?
Agree.
Okay. So we will do that. 55%, 20%, discuss, first outliers and then discuss. Now I can use the spreadsheet that I have open, or we can switch over to Rachel and have her do the numbers, but I could, why don't I try it? That way y'all can all sort of evenly discuss. Does that sound okay? Rachel, are you good with that?
Sure.
Okay, but then if at some point we want Rachel to take over, that's totally fine.
Great.
Okay. So let's look at. Hang on. Let's see, and that goes down to. That's the top 15. That's the rest of them. And then let's go ahead and talk about the outliers. Oh, and let me get a total going here. Okay. let's talk about the outliers. Hill Country Mental Health and Development Disorder had San Marcos Community Support. Y'all may be more familiar with that, the details of the program than I am. Here, let me get this over here. Oh, let's look at what everybody said. We have a couple of people who really like the program, Monica and Mariana. They received low scores from everyone else. And so I think the question is, first, should they receive funding at all? And then second, how much compared to what other people are getting, basically.
Carol, I can't see your screen. Are you sharing it?
Oh, I am not sharing. Sorry. It looks great, by the way. It was very helpful. Hang on one second. Okay, let me squeeze this up. Okay. Okay, here's what I did. I thought y'all were watching me the whole time. Okay. For the top 15, which is down to the protege program, I put a formula in this new column that multiplies what they requested by 55%. And so that got us to there. And then for the rest, I put in a formula. Here's the formulas. It's pretty small, that multiplies it by 20. And I did that all the way down. And we are at 519,000 if we do that. But we do have these 3 outliers that are kind of dominating the rest. Like when you look at what everyone else is receiving, they would be getting top dollar. And I think, let's see, it sounds like y'all want to fund as many as possible. So maybe we can skip the question, should they be funded, and just go to the question of how much for these 3 outliers that are pretty big. Let's start with mental health and development disorder program. What do y'all think? What would be a reasonable amount to fund them?
So this, if I look at my notes, this is one of the programs, if I remember correctly too, it's a $43 million revenue program. And they had lost 5.5 million of their funding last year, I believe, and they were trying to supplement some of that funding that they had lost. And my other notes here was it was funding for some staffing, peer support, family partner, mental health consultation, person-centered outpatient services, and 430 San Marcos residents was the target. Just if that's helpful for folks to remember that one.
Thank you.
Could you remind me, did they also have other funders?
They did. I think that's where, because their revenue is 43 million. So they did a variety of grants and other programs. I don't have it in front of me let me actually look at this. I might have it in my paperwork.
So what I'm hearing is they have resources, so if they don't get too much, it's not going to hurt them.
I don't think it's going to impact their ability to serve in the same way it would others.
Right.
I
Someone
agree.
would have to correct me if I'm wrong. Was this one that was seeking matching funds though?
I think there was another one that needed matching funds in order to get their funding, but I believe that was a different organization.
I think it was a smaller organization. I don't recall it with this one,
Right.
but I don't have the paperwork in front of me, so I could be completely misspeaking.
And I believe they have the greatest number of, when we look at it, other resources when compared to any of the other organizations.
Yes, I believe they're a well-established organization in our community, so I would take that into consideration. They do have a lot of networking and resources other than the smaller ones that are needing the assistance.
What would be the least amount that we wanted to give them and everybody would be comfortable with?
What if we do 40,000? Reduce it by 10,000.
That's what I was thinking too. At
Yeah, I like
least
that.
35,
minds think
40.
alike, right?
I
My
was
gut
thinking
was
35.
25, But if 40 feels more comfortable, my gut was 25, but.
I was 30, 35, yeah,
Can I ask the group,
yeah.
Say that again, Ruben. I don't think that was clear.
30,000.
is Southside Community Center on the list?
Is
I don't
what
see Southside
Southside?
Community Center. Yeah.
Yeah, they're on the list. They are up here. Let's see, Southside Specific Assistance is up here. And then,
But how about their
and then their other one is one of the top ones. So it's up here. The Emergency Shelter Transitional Shelter is one of the top. So it's got the 55%, and then Southside
okay.
Pacific
I had
Assistance.
to
is
ask.
low.
I apologize. I had to ask. My
Okay.
old doctor aren't playing games with me.
Yeah, I think there's no good way to show all this at once.
Well, I guess
So what are y'all
maybe
saying,
to-
30?
maybe to just confirm, does everyone believe it needs to stay on the list? And if the answer is yes, then we can, I think, decide, is there some value that makes everyone feel slightly more comfortable?
I would like to fund them, but at a lower amount.
Okay.
Would you be
Lower
willing
amount.
to, a lower amount? Would
Of-
you be comfortable with what Allison, what did you propose,
I took that
25?
reaction 25, but I don't
I
know.
was
that
like
that's
at 30,
based on
so.
No financial information other than,
Right,
What would be the medium between 25
25
and 40? Would it
and 40.
be 35?
Give
Like,
them 30.
32.
30, 30.
yeah.
We could play with
Yeah.
30.
Yeah, let's play with, okay, sounds
And
good.
that gives us 20 to maybe allocate somewhere else. Cause I saw something like, I think if we looked at this, like some of them where it's like, you know, they can fund their whole program for 10 and we're giving them 2,
Mhm.
you know, we might want to just throw a little more in that bucket, right? So.
I agree, that's what we did last year too. I agree with that.
Okay, so there's that one. I'm gonna make it a slightly different color. Just so we know
Yeah.
that we did something different there. And then we have Home Center is another outlier just because they're requesting 150,000. And 20% of that is 30,000. Do y'all want to do something different is the question.
I'd like to keep it at 30, but that's, yeah.
I would keep it at 30.
Okay,
Awesome, Ruben. Yeah.
I agree.
okay. We'll keep moving for the sake of time, but anybody interrupt me if you want to speak. The next one was Melge, Iron Sharpens Iron. And they had asked for 200,000 and 20% of that is 40,000.
I would keep it at 40 and maybe if we can give them a little more because last year, I think they were just coming in last year. They asked for 60 and we had to give them 60 because it was half of the budget or something. So even though we were giving out more money, they still stayed the same. So I would say keep it as close to, I would like to keep it close to what they got last year since they are a new company to us moving into San Marcos, but what they provide, the services they provide is not new to them.
Mhm.
They work off of a lot more money in Austin than we could give them here in San Marcos. And so
I
Any
liked
other thoughts?
this organization. I wrote in my notes that they didn't provide financials. So I don't think in this, I probably gave this one a high risk score just because of that. But
They
maybe you
provided
guys
their-
are familiar with them from last year that might have shed some light.
Did
Yeah.
they provide financials, Carol, and it wasn't included, or did they not?
I
thought-
have in my notes that they provided their 990, but there wasn't a proposed program budget.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe it's the budget that we were missing. I think when we went through and did completeness, we may have missed that, but because I thought everybody had provided a budget and their 990.
I did
No,
too.
there were actually several organizations that didn't have a budget included.
Okay, that's our mistake.
Correct. I remember.
Could you remind me what they do?
This is the one where it's incarcerated individuals and getting them back integrated into society. So
Like a
I think
reentry
it's
program.
It's a reentry program. They also work with the families as well and with the community.
And they are already partnering with the San Marcos Police Department and the Sheriff Department.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, my other note is that it's 40 residents is the target for this year.
Even if we keep it at 40, that's still better than nothing. If we could get it
Yeah.
close to 60, it'd be great, but at 40, I'm okay with that.
What was their
Problem
average
is
risk
we're already
score?
over.
Sorry, Ruben. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We're already
go
over.
ahead.
We're at 512. We're at 512 already.
Well, right now we're at 499 because we reduced Hill Country to 30, and that put us down to about 500,000 right here.
I'm good with the 499, but I understand Allison's point, wanting to go back and maybe discuss some of the other ones that we scored low on as well.
Mhm. So are we staying at 40 for Milch? Sounds like,
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Okay.
votes stay at 40 and then we can adjust if we feel like it.
all right.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, then we've discussed the outliers and we have about 25 minutes or maybe 30 to discuss, until we hit 8:30. And so we could go ahead and go into some of the specific entities that y'all want to talk about. I guess, before we do that, let's just go down the list a little bit and see where we are, just so you can see. Here are the top 15. And this is what's compared. This is that 55% compared to what they asked for.
I like that because most of the organizations, including the food bank, and I advocate for them always, but they have they do heavy fundraising,
Mhm.
and I don't think that they would be hurting with the numbers that we currently have at 55%.
Okay. And just sliding down the list a little bit, then here's the next sort of layer. This is just 14 I'm highlighting just to give us a group to look at.
I'm sorry, I got kicked out.
Oh, okay. Please let us know if you wanted to talk. Now we're just sort of looking over the list real quick before we discuss specific entities.
I just recommend you give them the 60.
I'm sorry, you say
Has
that
that
again.
decision already been made? You give them the 60.
For Melge, are you talking about Melge? We went with 40.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and now let's talk. So now let's open the floor to talk about some specific entities. So I'll just open the floor for anyone who wants to start.
So I did something similar to you, Carol, where I was trying to categorize some of the groups. And one of the categories that I put in here was direct aid. So those organizations where they essentially hand out direct cash support or like support for programs, where someone's trying to meet their, bill for that month or whatever it might be. And so I'm looking at the list now and my reaction is I don't see any of these that I would take off the list, but I'm just curious if there's maybe categorizations that people felt stronger about than others that might give us an opportunity to kind of maybe look at the list.
So the direct services that you're talking about, I called emergency services.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
And I felt like these were the ones that maybe fell in that category.
Oh, that's last year. Never mind. I was like, oh,
Oh, and we could maybe hide this at this point. And then have one more. Here's requested this year and then. So like there's those.
Yeah.
And we're looking
Again.
at them for what reason?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Because
Yeah.
Well,
I was
why
too.
are we looking at them?
I think part of it was me just talking out loud and thinking.
okay.
Oh, okay,
Like,
okay.
my original
get
thinking was, well, if we're just handing out funds to residents, do we want to think about that differently than organizations that provide services, for instance, as a thought experiment? But once I started to like filter it, I was like, well, I don't see any on there that I didn't agree with the way that they were handling that service in that way. And so then I was just kind of going into, is there categories people felt super passionate about versus ones that maybe were like preventative services, which you don't see direct impact immediately that we wanted to consider differently in some way, but maybe the answer is no, and that's totally fine too.
I was looking at the ones that were highlighted, Allison, and still, they do have, okay, there we go. They do have, I think, greater fundraising capabilities to where still the money that they're getting, I don't think that it would have a direct negative effect on them. For instance, St. Vincent de Paul, they have people, if they don't get, I think one year they missed out on funding, but they had people who gave them money to help them till they could apply again this year. So, and we asked them about that, and I think he was saying that nobody suffered, or their organization didn't suffer because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that they're okay with the money that we're giving them.
On that topic, I'm just curious, because I work in finance in the private world, and you guys have more experience with these organizations, but a lot of times for us during budget season, a strategy is you shoot for the moon and you ask for more knowing that it could get cut. Is that kind of how it works with these groups too?
Yes, ma'am. Especially last year, they really shot for the moon.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, we
It's a
gave
good
them a lot.
strategy. That
And
way you have
so
a better
this
chance
year,
of getting
they-
something.
Yeah, so this year, some of them probably had that in their head too, because we gave out so much money last year. But yeah, it's right, as with writing any grants, you always ask for, well, usually it means for 15% more than what we really need, so that
Okay,
we can
that
get
makes me
close to
feel a
what
little
we
better.
want. Yeah.
So I'm not hearing much chatter on the categories. I can switch it back to sorting by rank. 1 second. And then we could just talk about individual items if you want to.
So the question is there any one agency that one feels more compassionate about or passionate about?
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
again, the only agency that addresses animal assistance is the preventative pals. And, you know, the shelters are hurting. And, you know, the San Marcos shelter services all of Hayes County. And I think that it helps in a lot of ways to help the community, that I would like to fund them as close to what they're asking for, because it is the only agency that addresses this other need that's both human and non-human. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but and the new program they talked about with trying to address the large dog neutering situation is a big deal, because what's left in the kennels are large dogs that they're having a really hard time placing. If we want to try to get it as close to a no-kill shelter as possible, I just don't see how we can not support that effort, because the money they're asking for, I think, is reasonable for what they're trying to accomplish.
I'll just speak a little bit to that. I have a puppy here with me. I'm in great support of PALS, but we ask a question. What is Dripping Springs contributing to the effort? Because they said they were going out to Dripping Springs to get this accomplished. And basically they said they, wait,
Part of Hayes County, and when I was looking for a dog, they sent me out to Dripping Springs because they coordinate with the San Marcos shelter. They place pets out there when they're at capacity in San Marcos. They work together. Pardon?
There was some conversation about Dripping
but I
Springs
think one of the questions
providing
was,
transportation.
one of the questions was, and it wasn't by me, what was drip? Well, there was really not a number supplied to us in regards to what they were contributing. Now I have this, but I went to the shelter to adopt a dog and they were closed. And they gave me some here in San Marcos, and they said they were restocking. And then I went again and they were closed again. I went 4 or 5 times. And it was almost impossible for me to adopt a dog from the San Marcos shelter. I think they need to look at their procedures, and I think they really need to open up to the public, because they advertise, you know, come get a dog. And I think a lot of people want to go get a dog, but when they get there, they're met with closed doors, or they're met with staff that is not really amicable to show them around.
well, I feel like I need to pause this conversation because we're really talking about PALS, which is a nonprofit.
Thank you.
And the program is for helping people that can't afford it to get their pets spayed or neutered, correct?
Correct.
yes. And the reason that they were asking for $5,000 more was because they were outsourcing to Dripping Springs. And I had a problem. I had a problem with that $5,000 more as well. Carol, is there any way that you could go back, not last year, but the year before, and see how much PALS asked for? Because I think they stay in the 20,000 or the low range, but I don't think that they've ever asked for a 25.
You're right. Last year they asked for 20. Well, they got 20. I think that was what they asked for too. The year before that, they were funded $9,500.
I just
Why we
know
only-
that they were all, I'm sorry,
Well,
Ruben.
I'm just wondering why we're only funding them $5,000.
That has resulted because they
percent.
were of the percentages. Yeah. So 20% of 25,000 is 5,000.
But this is where we have the opportunity where we reduce down some of the others. If we feel passion here, maybe we can bounce it up a little bit.
Well,
I don't think
You
it's
know,
about,
5,000
providing,
really is a drop in the bucket.
I don't think it's.
Yeah, I wish we would, because
I'm sorry. Let's have Ruben talk first and then
5,000,
Gloria.
you can't do,
Sure.
you really can't do anything with $5,000. Let's be honest about it. We should increase their allotment and try to decrease, I guess, somewhere else if we can. But you've got prevention of substance abuse, $3,000. I don't know. I just don't see what anything is going to be accomplished with 3,000 or 2,000.
Mhm.
So I think we should be mindful of that, that if we want these organizations to accomplish something, in my opinion. So do I make a motion to increase the PAL allotment?
Well, we haven't been that formal yet, but I would just say that this is what you're proposing and then see if there's any discussion on it. And I was thinking we could just kind of round robin it, like, not even round robin. Just by concurrence.
We gave them 25,000.
We don't have that kind of money this year, Ruben.
Ruben, that was working with $1 million budget. But if you go back the year before, we gave them, I think it was 9,500. And that's why I say, last year, we really can't look at those numbers because we were working with extra money. And that's why we were able to give a lot of people extra money.
This year, I think cutting them down if you catch something else.
I'm sorry, Ruben, we didn't catch that.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
500,000.
Well, we don't have that kind of money this year, Ruben. The money we had last year.
Or
So do we have a different proposal for an amount for PALs?
What's the current proposal? 9,500?
Well, I would suggest, in my humble,
No, I was just asking what they were giving 2 years ago, not last year. And it was 9,500. And that's
I've only done this for 30 years.
close to their
That
asking
you
as
take it
well.
from the home program, you're funding her 30,000. I would fund her 20,000. And give 10,000 more. I would from 10,000 and give it to PALS, which would give them 15,000 for the year.
I'm sorry, Joanne, what did you say the amount was the year before?
9,500. And if you know, Mary,
But we are talking, I hate to put it in terms of,
they've never asked for that much.
my puppy is my puppy and I'd do anything for that puppy.
Mm.
And,
Well, but it's
but
a
for
new program. It's
homeless-
a new program that they're trying to establish with addressing the large dog.
do the same thing. I would do just about anything.
So Ruben, I'm sorry, you're cutting into Gloria. Gloria, go ahead.
But it's a new program that they're trying to fund with addressing the large dog neutering, spading issue. And these, my understanding, and I don't have all my notes because I'm elsewhere, but my understanding is that these are dogs that they want to sterilize, for lack of a better word, in order for them to be adopted, to be more likely to be adopted. And there's a big need.
I understand that, but the only reason that we gave them the 25,000 last year is because we had more money. If you look at their history, and Mary, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we've never given them that much before, and they've never asked for, haven't asked for that much. I
Yeah,
think
we've always given.
we're always giving them
them
about like almost close to $10,000. Yeah.
I'm
So they're
confused
asking for
about which
15.
program this is that we're talking about, because I thought that this program was like, say, when my son was little, I was a single mom, wanted to get a dog, couldn't afford to get the dog fixed. An organization like this would help reduce the cost of that so that I could afford to have a pet for my child. I don't think this is about the center, the adoptions, or something targeted to the larger dogs, spaying and neutering them so that they're not in shelters. Am I wrong on that? I just want
No,
to make
you're
sure I'm
not.
understanding what the program is for.
That is
You're
what the program
correct.
is for. And they
Okay.
were introducing a new component this year with the 5,000.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I was getting confused about some of the other things that were said. I
No,
just want to make sure that
you're,
I understood which group it was we were talking about.
you're correct. And what I was asking Carol to do is go back minus last year. I really wish that we wouldn't even look at last year. Minus last year, go back to the year before, and we gave them 9,500. And I don't think we've ever given PALS the $25,000 for anything.
I thought they were asking for 15.
Well, so I think 15 has been talked about here. Now, right now, what PALS requested was 25. What's on the table perhaps is 15. Joanne was mentioning 15.
I was mentioning what they got 2 years ago, and that was 9,500.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so
It's okay.
9,500.
It's okay. It's okay.
I guess I just have fun. Like, is anyone against going above 5,000, which is the calculated amount? And if no one's against it,
I wouldn't say I'm against it, but how do you decide which program you're going to pull from to fund it?
Thank you,
That's
Rachel.
my own
That's
thinking.
my
If
that's
we're
my
try-
question.
Yeah,
too.
if we're trying to make it fair,
It is the only program that funds this sort of issue.
right? And I
if
recognize that.
25, you're asking 25 and 15 is a working number. I just want to go on record for saying 15.
Okay, well, then
Okay.
who, Gloria, who would you suggest that we pull it from? Just to be fair, I understand why you're passionate about it. I agree with you, but we have to figure out what our thought process is for.
Well,
do you just pull a little bit from everybody?
Yeah, how about the MHMR program that's asking for 250, that's got other funding that equals thousands of dollars.
Is that the one we already reduced their 20%
Yes.
down?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're asking for me to target a singular agency,
I can't.
I
That's
don't
not
do
fair.
that.
It's how
I
do
don't
you?
want to do that.
Yeah, I get it.
And I'm not going to do that, but I'm just saying that I think
I wasn't trying to call you out. I'm just saying.
yeah,
If you're gonna, I agree with you. If you're gonna
sounded
move
like,
it, then how do you pick?
Pardon?
I said I wasn't trying to call you out and say you have to decide or put you on the spot. What I'm saying is, if you want to fund more for PALS, then just kind of open it for discussion. What's our thought process on Do you
Well, we-
pull it from another large ask, or do you reduce
Right.
everybody else a little bit to get there to that extra money?
For Hill Country, even though we reduced it, I think we also looked at the budget that they were working with. Would anybody have a problem taking 10 from there and giving them 20?
I don't.
I don't, and I was gonna say, I think we reduced from what was calculated at 50.
Yeah,
So
we
in
did.
theory, we have some to play with already without taking more, just as a,
Actually, we are at 500,000.
oh, we
Just so you
are,
know.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, even with the poll, okay, got it, got it.
So would anybody have a problem with taking 20? I'm sorry, 10 from Hill Country
No,
No,
to give Pal 15?
no.
Why don't, can you do that, Mary? I mean, Carol?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'm gonna make them
Okay.
colored. Okay.
Okay, Mary.
Let me interject something real quick. Can we, even if we have to take a vote, can we decide whether we're gonna be looking at last year's budget and looking at the request from last year or the year before? Because Joanne, I hear you. We keep going back to last year when we had all this money,
And that's not fair.
and it's not fair.
It's not. I would
Chris,
rather
use your
just scrap
data.
last year
Let's
and
make
call that a
decision.
special year of money and then go back to,
So next week, I can have a column that shows what they received 2 years ago. For now, we just have this separate spreadsheet where I can look it up.
Carol, in addition to that being available to review together, can you send that out to us as well?
Yes, it's actually in your packet, but I'll send it out again. It was in
It is
your
in our packet.
original packet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, and I'm only requesting that. Last week, my flash drive is saying that the files are corrupted. So I'm actually not able to view everything I saved.
Oh dear, okay.
So
Yeah, I'll be
then-
happy to send it.
I was gonna reach out to you to ask for copies of everything.
That's why I couldn't get in.
so Carol, are you asking if we have discussions about any other organization? Or I know we probably come back next week anyway, just to finalize everything. Or is everybody
Yeah.
okay with the numbers now, including the 10,000 that was given to PALS? And we're still at what, right at 500,000? So
Mhm.
499. So we're still at our budget. Would everybody be okay with the numbers like today to just come back next week and just look over and just finalize everything? Or is there any other deeper discussions about any of the organizations? Because I'm okay with the numbers. This way everybody gets something.
no, it's
I
a good
agree.
formula. Whoever came up with that formula is,
Mm,
Rachel.
to be commended.
Thank you, Rachel and Allison.
Yes.
And Monica.
And
Monica started everything. the
Yeah,
ball
Monica
rolling.
started
Yeah,
it.
okay,
Monica
I don't know
started
who
it.
did it, but I mean, it's
And
like,
I'm not
oh
the
my.
math whiz. I'm not good at math. That's why we
And
have
Rachel
math
and
experts,
Allison just kind of took it from there. But
Yeah.
this is
Yes.
great. I love this.
because that's her expertise, and that's why we're such
Ah.
a great committee.
Yes, we are.
Different
Now,
perspectives and different expertises.
Okay. I love this and I'm okay with the, just me. I'm okay with how the numbers are for everyone. But is everyone else okay with this? And then next week we just come back just to look over everything and just to finalize everything.
I second
I'm
the
okay.
motion.
You're okay, Ruben?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I am too.
I
Looking
am
at the
too.
num- Okay.
I like it.
great.
I
I
like
do
this
too.
proposal.
I like it.
Do we need to take a formal vote, Carol, or?
We can if y'all are ready to vote. If you
Well-
would prefer to wait till next week to do the actual vote, we do take a vote at the end. So
Mhm.
Oh,
to confirm. So if y'all want to wait and discuss next week again and then take the vote, that's what I would recommend.
Okay, Allison and Rachel and Mary, we didn't hear from y'all. Are y'all okay with it?
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm good with
Yes.
this.
I am too.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm hearing we'll vote next week. that
Yes,
right?
unless everybody's really ready to vote this week, and then we can do that. But I just want to make sure everybody has time to like really absorb everything.
I agree.
It's really up to y'all.
Yeah,
You
I
wanna
agree.
come back?
It'll give us time to think about it, look it over the weekend. And then we should reconnect next week and then make the final vote.
Awesome. And Carol, can you send us this spreadsheet as well?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Also, we're at 8:25, y'all.
I make a
Okay.
motion adjourn.
Okay, we have to, thank you, Ruben. We do have to go through the rest of the agenda, even though it's silly.
Me too, Ruben.
Yeah, I know everybody's ready. We have to go through those silly, extra steps. So I'll turn it back over to Monica so she can walk through the agenda.
Okay, it is now time to receive updates from board members on activities since the last meeting. Does any board member have any update for the group? Any updates, anybody? Okay, all right, we will move to the next item, which is future agenda items. Board members may provide requests for discussion items for a future agenda in accordance with the board's approved bylaws. No further discussion can be held related to topics proposed until they are posed on a future agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Does any board member want to request an item for a future agenda? Thank you. We will now move on to the agenda item called question and answer session with press and public. This is an opportunity for the press and public to ask questions related to items on this agenda. Staff, is anyone present in person, online, or by phone to speak in this agenda item?
No.
Thank you all for your participation. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So be it.
The motion was made by Ruben. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, Joanne has seconded the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All against, please say nay. Okay. I will now adjourn this meeting at 8:27 p.m. Thank you, everybody.